I go out into the street. It is burning. Everything around is on fire. Whole streets. Mila, Zamenhof, Kurza, Nalevki, Lubechkova. Shortly put, all the streets are burning. Apartments are burning. Workshops, warehouses, stores, and entire buildings. The entire ghetto... Sorry. The entire ghetto is a sea of flames. There's a strong wind which blows out sparks from the burning houses to the ones which do not burn yet. The fire immediately destroys everything. A stunning sight. The fire expands so fast that people don't have time to flee the houses and perish inside in a tragic manner. This is also from an eyewitness account of the liquidation of the Warsaw Ghetto. The reason that I think the comparison is important is because I believe in language. I believe that when we call things, when we use bad metaphors, bad analogies, we don't understand what we're looking at. For a long time, the human rights community was using the term open-air prison to describe Gaza. I don't know what an open-air prison is. Like, that actually, if you think about it, doesn't help explain what it is. And I think that even though the comparison to a ghetto has appeared over and over again, people have been fearful of using that comparison, but it would have been essential to understanding what was actually there. In a miserated, hyper-densely populated space, fenced off, where people, very few people had the permission to leave even for a short period of time, where an outside force controlled all access. But there were no prison guards, there are no cells, there's no schedule, and the power is held by a local force that is empowered by the outside force. Now, you asked whether I believe that the objective of the Israeli military goes beyond military targets. I think at this point we have ample evidence, and again, I'm going to use largely other voices. But first, consider the killing of the 3 hostages yesterday in Gaza. I assume everybody knows that 3 men escaped, somehow we don't know how, and were waving a white rag, and 2 of them were shot on sight, and the 3rd one ran into a house, was followed into the house by IDF soldiers and shot there. In the discussion that has come out over the last 24 hours, the most striking thing is that it is emerging that the Israeli army basically has orders to take no prisoners. This is routine. This is how they act. The exceptional fact about these murders, about these evident war crimes, because these were clearly non-combatants, the exceptional thing about them is that they were a mistake because these were Israelis. It was not the first time it happened. Something similar happened just quite recently at a checkpoint when a Jewish citizen of Israel was mistaken for a Palestinian, and while he was kneeling, was shot. But we have had evidence from Palestinians for a long time that they're shot on sight, that unarmed people are shot, that people who are surrendering are shot. And we now see it in much clearer light because it affected Israelis. I'm now going to quote the leader of a town government in Israel. This is from an interview he gave a couple of days ago to an Israeli radio station. His name is David Azulai. This is a quote, and I apologize for reading this out loud. After October 7th, instead of urging people to go south, we should direct them to the beaches. The Navy can transport them to the shores of Lebanon, where there are already sufficient refugee camps. Then a security strip should be established from the sea to the Gaza border fence, completely empty, as a reminder of what was once there. It should resemble the Auschwitz concentration camp. This is not an outlier. I have other quotes that clearly tell us what the intention of the Israeli operation in Gaza is. There will be no electricity, no food, no fuel. Everything is closed. We're fighting human animals and we act accordingly. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. No electric switch will be turned on. No water tap will be opened. And no fuel truck will enter until the Israeli abductees are returned home. Energy Minister Israel Katz. As long as Hamas does not release the hostages in its hands, the only thing that needs to enter Gaza are hundreds of tons of explosives from the Air Force, not an ounce of humanitarian aid. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. Now, I know that in the popular imagination, most Jews who died in the Holocaust died after being transported from ghettos in cattle cars to death camps. This is actually not true. Out of the 6 million, 2 million were shot in the so-called Holocaust by bullets. Of the remaining 4 million, about 2.7 died in gas chambers, gas vans, or otherwise by gas. But the remaining 1.3 million died of disease and starvation. Today, Human Rights Watch said unequivocally that Israel is using starvation as a weapon of war. This is a war crime, and we can see that it is being inflicted intentionally. The WHO has said that in less than 60 days, the number of functioning hospitals has dropped from 36 to 18. Of these, 3 are only providing basic first aid, while the remaining hospitals are delivering only partial services. Those able to admit patients are delivering services well over their intended capacities, with some treating 2 to 3 times as many patients as they were designed for. The 12 hospitals that are still operational in the south are now the backbone of the health system. If you want more, I have descriptions of how people are hunting for basic necessities. The majority of the population of Gaza is now affected by extreme hunger.
Lassen wir doch Masha Gessen kurz sprechen. Sie dürfen sich gern nachher konstruktiv in die Debatte einbringen.
9 out of 10 Gazans have been displaced. The biggest difference between Gaza and the Jewish ghettos in Nazi-occupied Europe is that many Gazans, most Gazans, are still alive, and the world still has an opportunity to do something about it.
Masha Gessen.